What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Payne. Welcome back to an Omniheroes video. Alright guys, we're finally finishing up the full tier list for the first synergies, and we have one synergy left, and that is probably the coolest name out of all of them, but probably in my opinion one of the worst, unfortunately, and that is the Doomsdayers. And that is going to be this green little icon on these icons in the bottom here, sorry, these units in the bottom. So we're going to go through every single one of them like we usually do. We're going to talk about what each one of them does, place the units where they belong, and then from there you guys should have your full list of each synergy. Now remember, to read this you have to look at the synergies themselves, and that's what you want to build based on where the characters are located. So the Valianters are all here, for example, right? You want to keep going down the list. Ethereals are up here, for example, and then you want to go down the list here, right? So you can kind of see where everybody belongs, etc., etc., etc. So that's how you're going to read this tier list and how you're going to make sense of it. So understand that this is a synergy tier list, not a unit tier list, because in this game, that unit tier list is going to be very irrelevant because synergies matter the most. So consider this your final tier list for this go round once I put these guys in, and then I'll do a whole revamp if there are changes that need to be made for that. Now, some of you have asked me to remove the epics. Majority of you have asked me to keep them in. So for this purpose, we'll keep them in. On the next full tier list, I'll remove them for those that want to see where the other people belong. It won't change very much, to be honest with you, because you can still see which synergy units belong where, if they're in the bottom rung or not, from a legendary perspective, okay? So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Alright guys, so the first person we're going to start with is going to be Standard back over here. He is the epic mage of the team. He's a lizard mage. Kind of looks cool, to be honest. I kind of wish he was better than just an epic, but in terms of what he does, simply does magic damage to 3 random enemies with a special. He unleashes an attack on one unit, and he does one stack of cracked crystals. Sorry, he does it to all enemies, cracked crystals to all enemies. And what that does is, when attacked, receives additional damage equal to 20% of Standard's attack. So it's a debuff that he does. And then, of course, Standard increases damage boost by 25% against targets with cracked crystals. So instead of being 20%, it goes up to 25%. So overall, he's going to get a D tier. Not a very good mage, not a very good unit. Most of the epics are going to land between C and D, depending on what you use them for. But some people like to use them just to fill out a whole team to get the extra bonus boost in either the synergy or, of course, the actual bonus that you get, for example, in Grace Room. Okay, going on over to Ball next. Now, Ball, which is unfortunate because he's one of my favorite Diablo characters, plus like lore characters for Hell. But so he's a tank. So Ball uses the amount of powers, applying 2 stacks of defense boost to himself, and applies a shield to the 2 nearby enemies with the lowest HP. When they take damage, one of them has 50% chance to share 50% of the damage with Ball. Lasts for 4 rounds. So it's a decent tank for beginners, especially. For his active, he deals 84% physical damage to frontline enemies. If there's only one target, the coefficient of the damage goes up to 108. So still not very high. After Ball attacks, he restores 50% of his HP. So I'll be honest with you guys, in terms of a tank, he's a C-level tank. He can do okay for you in the beginning, but you're going to use him as food anyways at the end of the day. So overall, not the greatest unit. So let's go on to the legendaries. We'll start off with our girl Doris here. Now, Doris is a caster mage on the team, and ultimately her job is to provide a lot of reflect. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to talk about what the synergy is for Doomsdayers. I want to get those two out of the way first. So their main role is to provide ally reflect rate, and so essentially whenever somebody damages you, they get some of the reflection of that damage back. So if you have 2 units in the front, 2 units, and every time a backline enemy attacks that unit, they take damage equal to the ally's reflect rate times the allies attack times 6%. So it's a formulation of your reflect rate, your allies team rate times 6%. And then each time, and if you get 3, each time enemies attack, it doesn't matter if it's backline or frontline this time, it's the same formulation, but it's 8%. If you get to the 4 of them, it's going to go to 10%, okay? And then each time an ally unit takes damage, there's also a 50% chance to restore own HP equal to 20% of the damage you take. And then the next one is 12% attack rate instead of 10, and then the equal, it's still 50% chance to restore HP, but it's up to a percentage of 30%. Okay, so I just want to get that out there so people understand. It's all about reflect rate, because some people are asking, like, what do you do with these runes that have reflect rate? Well, they belong to the Doomsdayers, okay, just so you guys know. All right, going back to Doris here. So her active ultimate, Dora summons oceanic beings to attack enemies, dealing 375% damage, and grants 2 stack of reflect boost to herself and allies in the same line. So most likely you're going to get the back allies in this case. That's where she belongs. Torrent Burst, which is her active, summons the torrent to attack backline enemies, dealing 135% damage, grants 2 stacks of reflect boost to herself and the allies in the same line. Remember, this can stack up to 5 times in total, just with her and the team. Each time Doris takes action with the total reflect of the allies greater than 100, there's a 50% chance to apply Vital Drain on all enemies. And Vital Drain here is actually what's going to be used on the Abyss boss. So if you don't have Catherine, guys, she does provide Vital Drain, so you could definitely use Doris if you plan to use the Doomsdayers. And also Doris Reflect Rate additionally increased by 25%. So every additional reflect rate that these units have, they also increase their power by 1%, okay? So with her personally, she gets an A. She's actually a pretty decent magic user. Not the best out there because quite honestly, reflect rate I find is pretty minor in terms of what it does, and she only does give it to the same lineup, but she does have Vital Drain, which not many units in this game have except for I believe Catherine. So you get that bonus from there, but she definitely gets an A for that for sure. All right, moving over to Sylvan here. She is going to be a warrior unit. That's going to be this unit right here. Put her in the front. Okay, and this is what she provides. Okay, so Sylvan calls upon ancestral powers, charges toward the enemy alongside phantoms, dealing 336% physical damage to 3 random enemies and gaining 2 stacks of reflect boost. And then her active skill charges and attacks a single enemy, dealing 100% physical damage and gaining 2 stacks of reflect boost, which lasts for three turns. Sylvan also increases reflect rate by 25%. When Sylvan is deployed, the ally team increases the reflect rate by 20% as well too. So you get 25 for her, 20 for the team. And then when Sylvan is deployed, allies increase the limit of reflect rate attacks by 10%, stacks by 10. So that goes from 5 to 15 having her on there, okay? So just so you guys are aware, she does provide that. She's also going to be an A. Decent damage dealer. Overall, it does increase your reflect rate, but doesn't do as much damage and doesn't also provide as much reflect rate to the team. She more focuses on... she more focuses on the stacking it on herself, and then her active also gives her... her active also gives her physical or the reflect boost as well too. So overall, she's good, but she's more selfish with her reflect rate, while Doris at least gives it to the same lineup. So they kind of fall even to the thing. The reason why she's even in the same league as Doris is because she gets the stackable amount increased by 10. That's what makes her a little more useful in that regard. So you can use them together or separate, but she should definitely be in the front of your party if you don't have Halios, which we'll talk about shortly as well, okay? Okay, moving on to Merlin, the other caster here on the team. Now, Merlin, a little more powerful than Doris. He does do 375% magic damage to all enemies and receives 2 stacks of reflect boost. So it does affect him only, but he does do an AoE at least, which is really nice. Merlin also summons with his active Floral Blades to slash 3 random enemies, dealing 135% damage and gaining 2 stacks of reflect boost. So again, a little more selfish, not providing it to the team. Merlin's reflect rate additionally increases by 25%, so a little higher there. And then for every 1% increase, Merlin gets the additional attack. Okay, so Merlin actually compared to Doris, I'm gonna put Doris an S for them. Merlin probably should sit here, just because she does give more reflect rate. Sylvan also is a little more selfish, but at least she provides additional stacks. Merlin's almost gonna be a B to me, to be honest. I don't know how I feel about him. I'm gonna put him in B. I've been testing him a lot recently, to be honest. I didn't have Doris before, so I tested him before her, and I'm finding him being very lackluster. So we're gonna put him in B, put Doris in S because of the reflect rate that she provides, and then keep Sylvan in A because of the increase on the reflect. Okay. All right. Moving over to Athena, who is the tank here. Now Athena does damage to frontline enemies with 210% for physical damage. Applies 2 stacks of reflect boost on 2 random ally units. So at least gives it to 2 random units, not just herself. Athena slashes fearlessly with her active, dealing 70 physical damage to 1 single enemy, and applies 2 stacks of reflect boost on 1 random ally. So again, it's a little more random. With her passive, Athena additional reflect rate goes up by 25%. And then Athena increases her damage reduction by 30% every 1% of her reflect rate that is available. She also gets 1% of attack. So overall, she's a pretty damn good tank for that second passive, specifically called Leadership, where she does increase her damage reduction by 30%. So that's going to really help her shine in that battle, okay? So for her, we're going to toss her an S. She does give random people the reflect rate, which is really good. The damage reduction is really good as well too. But overall, she doesn't, she's not high enough to be SS for sure, but she definitely is a good tank, so she'll go an S there. All right, moving over to the last two, okay? Let's start off with the demon, Aushta here, right over here. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about her. Now, she is a support unit with pretty unique skills. All right, so she summons a heart bomb with her ultimate that detonates at the center of the enemy party, dealing 315% magic damage to all enemies. She also applies Confuse to 2 random targets for 1 round and disables 2 stacks of buffs from all enemies. Okay, so what does Confuse do? A troll effect with 50% chance to force the affected target to attack confuses targeter or random allies with a basic attack. So it's a great way to stop people from doing specials and a good way for them to damage themselves, especially when you're fighting higher opponents with more power. It's a good way just to have them peck at each other and take away some of that pressure on yourself. All right. Her active, she whips the other ally units, dealing damage equal to 10% of the target's current HP. So that's to yourself, by the way. She also applies Demonic Inspiration and increases damage boost by 15% and purifies 2 stacks of debuffs from all allies. So that 15% damage boost is huge, by the way, okay? So increases damage boost for Demonic Inspiration, restores HP right before the end of each action. So your HP will come back once the action is over, so don't worry about losing that HP. It does come back in return, but you get that 15% bonus in damage, plus the 2 stacks of debuffs that are removed from the allies, okay? So her passive, she increases damage reduction by 30%. When she's deployed, increases reflect rate of all allies by 20%. When deployed on the battlefield, she also increases the limit of defense boost by an extra 5 for all allies. So that puts you at defense boost plus 10. So she's definitely SS for that team. Incredible unit and a great way to cause confusion and more damage for your own team. All right, keep that in mind. And lastly, we have the last unit here, and that is going to be Halios, the Archangel. He is a warrior unit as well, pretty much the counteract to Sylvant, and he's actually really freaking good. Okay, so first off, Halios unleashes light might and attacks enemies doing 300% physical damage. Landing a crit has a 50% base chance to apply stun on the target for 1 round. Okay, so just so you guys know, it's just a single target application. That's its only downfall is that really, but it does have the 50% base stun. If you actually do a crit, which is if you put him on a good crit team, you won't have that problem. All right. So his active Halios soars into the sky, hurls a Spear of Judgment, attacking enemies, dealing 120% physical damage. Landing a critical hit allows him to randomly attack a single enemy target and applies 1 stack of defense reduction, which is a good way to continue doing more damage. So when Halios is deployed and after the enemy has taken 3 instances of reflect damage, the ally team gains 2 defense boost stacks, and the limit of defense boost stacks also increases by 5. So by having him and Aushta together, you're going to have a lot of defense on this team, making it a lot harder to kill. And then lastly, Halios increases own damage reduction by 30%. Every 1% increase in Halios reflect rate also increases their attack by 2%. Okay, so he's also going to fall under SS. Now, to be quite frank though, he's not as good as Aushta. I think she's better, personally, than he is, but he is still one of the top units in that team. Okay, so this is pretty much your full tier list, guys. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. Now, remember, a lot of people complain about Ose being A and Minotaur being B. I made that adjustment and switch there, guys. Everything else here should be fairly accurate. If there are any comments or concerns, please let me know. This is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.